welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Tuesday. And I wanted to touch on this up and coming new moon in Leo. Give you guys a bit of a head start. I know some of you guys are still coming off of the full moon in Aquarius, so I hope it was a good one for you. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western astrologer. I work both with the Sabian Symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. If you like my content and you want to see more of it, click the button below so you're subscribed. And if you're new, drop me a comment below, say hello, and let me know where you're tuning in from. To everybody who has been returning, subscribers, if you guys are members, if you've donated to my channel, and you're helping support my work, thank you so much. I have noticed that there's been a lot of generosity recently, and I really appreciate it. It definitely makes it easier for me to keep this thing going. I'm really excited to talk to you guys about the new moon. I think that this is when the tide really starts to turn, and we're going to see some really big energies throughout this particular lunar cycle. So it really does pay to be prepared, even if we are a little bit early. Now, as many of you guys know, every 28 days we have a new moon that's planting new seeds in a certain area of our chart. So you may want to take a look at your natal chart, take a look at which house Leo is in. If your whole sign, it's going to be one particular house. If you work with Placidus, you're looking for 23 degrees, okay? Now, this particular new moon is coming in hot. I'm calling it a spicy new moon in Leo. It is very, very spicy, you guys, okay? So that's the one thing you want to be mindful of, is that you can use this in two particular ways this month. You can use this to incentivize you to want to make change, to do something new, to be creative, to be bold. Or some of you guys are going to kind of get caught with your pants down, realizing that there are circumstances out of the world that are changing, that are pushing you to do so. So remember, what separates an opportunity from a crisis, right, is how we look at it. And generally new moons are opportunities for us to set new intentions. So like I said, depending on the house, you have to kind of take a look and see which area you're setting intentions in. If you guys stay tuned to the end of this video, I am going to give rising sign for the 12 rising signs predictions, as well as tarot. So I'll give you a little bit of insight as to where it's taking place. But yeah, spicy, right? So we have the sun and the moon in conjunction, setting intentions for what we're hoping to achieve, especially when it comes to Leo-related themes: creativity, romance, self-expression, having fun, experiencing joy. And the sun and the moon, when they come together, represents this like pure moment of opportunity where we're planting something that will eventually grow. Now you'll see over the next 28 days after that new moon that it's really kind of flavoring the entire month. And we're getting lots of fixed squares. So it's going to be extra action-packed, I think, for the fixed signs. And it will be also playing out over about 6 months. So if you look 6 months down the road, as we're getting into early 2024, this will turn into a full moon, and then you will really start to see the effects of that particular full moon. This is a degree also that's going to get reactivated during the Venus retrograde. So once Venus goes direct, she will actually return to this particular degree, and she will reactivate something just after her third square to Uranus. So this is an area astrologically we've been talking about a lot for the last month. Leo season, Venus retrograde, the sun going through this particular sign. So many of you guys are already familiar with how some of the transits through the sign of Leo has been behaving, as we've seen squares to both Jupiter and Uranus in the sign of Taurus. Lots of friction, right? So more or less, outside of Venus's last square, this is really the last kind of like sucker punch that we're going to be getting as we're experiencing squares from Leo to placements in Taurus. Now, this is going to be a new moon that's coming in on August 16th, 2023, and it'll be taking place at 2:38 a.m. Pacific time, 5:38 a.m. Eastern time. I know I'm on Central, so it's around 5:38 in the morning, and we've got people all over the globe, so you'll have to kind of adjust your time zone to get an idea of when this is going to be taking place. But this is that moment where I think we are going to see some kind of lightning strike situation in our lives that's going to prompt us to want to make a change. So even though new moons are kind of quiet, generally we're not really moving around or doing too much. We're kind of holding space and waiting for the moon to come into a position where it's beginning to grow, so we can start to see events take place for a 2-week period until we get to the next full moon, which will be in Pisces, conjunct Saturn. So there's definitely limitation surrounding that moon. So if that's not a word you're crazy about, then you want to be making the most of this next 28-day cycle. And I think this is going to be where we really kind of collectively turn up the volume a little bit. Now, new moons are when we see the sun and the moon come into conjunction. And we've got the sun that's in its domicile, meaning it's in the sign that is home for this particular planet. The 5th house or the 5th sign of the zodiac, and it is fixed fire, which means it's passionate, it's determined, a little stubborn, right? Fixed signs don't want to make changes. They just want to keep on keeping on with the energy that they have. And the moon represents that receptive, psychic, intuitive, feminine quality where the sun is masculine. So every month when the sun and the moon come together, it's like this fusion of the subconscious and the conscious self, and we're able to really bring the two together. And in astrology, the moon also kind of represents what's going on with all of us collectively, right? It changes, signs relatively every 2 to 3 days. And it's pretty quick moving. So we see lots of moods happening through lunar transits. Now, this will be taking place at 23 degrees of Leo, which is quite an interesting degree, because if you're into step astrology, you know that 23 degrees actually has correlations and connections to Aquarius. So 23 degrees has connections to themes revolving around astrology, separation, explosions, electricity, lightning, planes, pilots, rapid speed, everything new, modern, the future, and to look ahead. Okay, so that's really what we're going to be seeing a lot. Yes, there's some darker themes to 23, okay, trigger warning. So anything revolving around unaliving, if you get what I'm saying, jumping from buildings. We might see or hear some of this stuff out in the media. So I would be personally, on a personal level, a little curious if there was like a suspicious death that takes place over this particular 28-day period, especially if it's somebody who's in Hollywood or who's like a really significant performer, or somebody who is very much involved in banking or trading or speculative markets. So if we hear about somebody really significant jumping from a building, if we hear something significant about somebody turning up dead, it's going to make me wonder. And, the new moon in Leo in general, it's a very powerful dynamic energy. Okay, so when we have this new moon, it's all about creativity, self-expression, but also leadership. That's something that I've been kind of meditating on a little bit, wondering what does it mean to be a leader? Who are we looking to for leadership right now out in the world? Are we focusing on taking, better control over what's going on in our own lives and being leaders ourselves? It's also a huge connection to confidence. Leo is all about confidence and carrying yourself with this sense of, pride. I guess pride is a big, word that comes up a lot with Leo. So this lunar phase is going to be encouraging all of us to embrace our inner strength, stepping into the spotlight, focusing on taking bold action towards our goals, right? Now, in particular, just generally speaking, new moons in Leo can be a really significant time for self-expression and authenticity. So during this time, there will be a strong emphasis on being true to yourself and expressing your unique identity without fear or, concern about criticism, what other people are going to say. Where the crowd is Aquarius, Leo is the person who's on stage. And oftentimes the lights are so bright that you can't even really see who's out there anyway. So it's about being more focused and in tune with what you're bringing to the table and what you're creating or what you're showing the audience, rather than with concerning yourself with their reactions. It's a huge opportunity also to focus on themes revolving around letting go of self-doubt and embracing your individuality. Now, like I said, confidence, courage, right? These are all themes also that come with Leo. And Leo's energy empowers us to be more courageous and confident in pursuing our dreams. So this is a new moon where you're really going to be blessed if you're focusing on taking the time to set intentions revolving around your achievements and pursuing your dreams and what you're hoping to kind of bring forth for yourself. Take risks, right? And if you're taking risks, then it is possible that you're going to see over the next month and eventually within 6 months' time that some of those risks might actually really significantly pay off. Quite literally, we have Uranus and Taurus. That's a very physical sign. Creativity, artistic expression, that's a big theme because, you know, this new moon inspires creativity and it's encouraging us to explore our passions and our talent. So whether that's through art or music, design, writing, or any other creative endeavor, it's a perfect time to unleash your imagination and show everybody else what you've got. More on like leadership and taking charge, you know, because Leo is a natural born leader, right? It's ruled by the sun. And so when I think of this particular new moon, I think it's inviting us to step into a leadership role, taking charge of our life and inspiring other people to do the same. Now, one thing I would say about this is, and you're going to see this with the Sabian symbol as well, some of the actions that we're taking connected to this particular new moon is not always going to be received well. And the reason why I say that is because we're going to see some pretty significant opening squares to Uranus in Taurus. So both being at 23 degrees. So it's really interesting that we're having an Aquarian degree and it's squaring Uranus, which is an Aquarian planet, at an Aquarian degree. And we know that when planets hit this particular degree, things get weird, right? Things start speeding up and we start seeing the potential future of what could potentially be happening out in the world and also in our own lives. I also think about, you know, romance and, you know, and love, because Leo is all about falling in love and taking chances and really kind of dipping into romantic and creative expression. So because Leo has that connection with romance and passion, if you're in a relationship right now, it can be a time where it's amazing to nurture the connection that you have with your partner. If you're single, it can be a period of increased confidence and attractiveness, drawing new potential people into your life. So everybody is going to benefit by being a little bit more open and maybe be thinking about our future relationships or where relationships can go or grow. Also a huge theme because we do happen to have Venus that's retrograde in the same sign. So even though the new moon is just a few degrees beyond that, it still is a part of the theme of how can we reimagine relationships and how sweet can life be, and what if I reconnected with that person, or what if I decided to kind of let something go. Celebration and enjoyment is a huge theme because Leo loves to celebrate and have fun. So this new moon is encouraging all of us to enjoy life, celebrating our achievements and finding joy in the little things, right? The simple things. It doesn't have to be the grandiose things. It can be as simple as, you know, having fun with your kids, playing a board game, you know, playing pretend, things that are going to be more childlike in nature. But I do think it can be a time also where, you know, individuals are kind of stepping up and kind of being able to join the collective and bringing forth some of their own individual talents. And for some of us, it's just like kind of being goofy and having fun. Drama and ego awareness definitely comes up with, obviously, Leo transits, especially with the moon being there, because everybody emotionally is kind of responding in that way. Even though it's very warm and very loving, you know, there can be obviously polarity to any sign. So while Leo's energy can be empowering, it's really important to also be mindful that the ego can be coming up during this particular new moon. We want to watch for avoiding excessive drama or self-centered behavior. And it can be used as a time positively to construct ways to better express ourselves, rather than getting kind of caught up in the drama, because I definitely think when you have a stellium of planets like this in Leo, things can get pretty dramatic. We are going to see, as the moon is coming into the new moon position, it's actually first going to square Jupiter. So it's going to feel very big, and we're going to feel like things are kind of closing out. And then we are going to see the moon come into conjunction with Venus, which is retrograde. So we're going to be feeling like, okay, we're reevaluating all of these Venus related things, what we love, what we value, relationships, our finances. So much about, this Venus retrograde, at least in my opinion, has been about getting back to simpler times. It has been about reflecting on the things that we really, on a personal level, do truly love and value that could actually bring joy back into our life. So I think that moon conjunction can also indicate that, there's something that we're having to reevaluate. There's something that we're having to revisit before we kind of set intentions revolving around what we truly do love and need in order to feel complete on a personal level, right? Leo can also be about self-love. And then you're going to see the sun and the moon come together square Uranus, which is a rather electrifying aspect. And I do feel like collectively a lot of us are going to be either consciously deciding to, stay in our own lane and be aware that we have to be actors, not reactors. If we're not doing that, then we're going to get caught up in some of the drama that's kind of going on, and we're going to feel the effects of the shocks and the surprises and energy revolving around kind of feeling like destabilized, right? It can be exciting as well, though. So when we see squares to Uranus, we can definitely see some excitement. Especially considering, Venus is the dispositor of these planets that are in the sign of Taurus. So I think that so much of the shocks and surprises and the new beginnings are actually going to stem from some things that are going on in the Taurus kind of themes out in the world. I do think that, especially Venus in Leo, but the moon in Leo as well, very generous. There is a focus on giving back. Leo has a big heart. It encourages us to be warm and generous and compassionate. So I think that it's a time to consider how you can give back to your community, how you can support causes that are close to your heart. And whether that's younger people, Leo, if it's, somebody that you love or that you care for, if it's your child, if it's a best friend, if it's a creative hobby, right? What you're doing to be able to participate more in that act of giving and generosity. And obviously with all new moons, it's about setting intentions for personal growth, regardless of the sign. Now, in this case, the personal growth that's going to be taking place, it will come at a cost. You guys are going to find that when we start to see planets come into Scorpio this fall, and it's squaring this degree, and it's opposing Uranus, that will be yet another step. And then when we're coming into ultimately the full moon, that will be in Leo in the beginning of 2024, it's going to be pretty action-packed as we're seeing Pluto coming back into Aquarius. So there's going to be some really big energies revolving around where we're all growing and changing and evolving collectively, especially when it comes to the future. Pluto is about power, and it can be about control. It can also be about manipulation. And I do think that a lot of this particular new moon is going to be about creativity and where we're coming up with creative solutions to break free from something, to break free from limiting systems, to break free from financial situations, to break free from, some would say like the Matrix. But I mean, it very much is. You got a lot of 23s that are kind of going on here. But use this new moon as an ideal time to set intentions, obviously for personal growth, self-improvement, aligning your actions with your authentic self. And to make the most of this new moon, consider engaging in activities that resonate with these themes. So for some of you guys, it's journaling, it's creative projects, it's self-affirmations. It's about finding ways to better express yourself so you can kind of connect or embrace with your inner lion or lioness. And really shine bright in this area of your life. Now, I want to read to you guys the Sabian symbol for this particular new moon. Obviously, 23 degrees and 17 minutes. So we're going to round up. That's what we do with the Sabian symbols. We're going to read 24 degrees. And I was kind of chuckling to myself. Those of you guys who have the Sabian symbols book, just for fun, I would also take a look at 23. It's The theme is daring to do, 23, a bareback rider. The keyword is audacity. So just for fun, read that one. But I'm going to read you guys 24. I'm going to stick to the rules on this one. So it is page 173 if you guys have this book, and if you don't, check out my Amazon list in the description. You can pick one up. Leo 24, okay, an untidy, unkempt man. The theme is judging by appearance. The symbol speaks to the inner reality and a total immersion in some self-exalted task or goal. The image of an untidy or unkempt man is another reversed or negative symbol, and it alludes to the indifference to physical comfort, outer appearance, and opinions of others that often accompanies an obsession with a mission. The suggestion here is that whatever the individual has brought into the center whatever the individual has brought to center in his person from the outer world will be refined, developed, and poured back for the benefit of those who will accept and use it. The earliest description of this image is described as a figure of a yogi of transcendent power, thereby alluding to the spiritual quality of this particular degree. At its highest, it indicates unflustered finesse in handling all practical matters with a wisdom born of experience. Watch for self-obsession or irresponsible self-neglect. The accent is on indifference to criticism. Outer appearances are ignored as the focus turns inward. Your greatest advantage lies in doing what has to be done without being concerned what others think about it. Guard against jeopardizing your health by becoming so over-involved in your projects that you forget to take care of your basic needs. Don't push yourself beyond your limits. Stepping stones would be inner directedness, independence, confidence, self-assurance, self-reliance, indifference, self-sufficient, self-possession, insensitivity. I think the real kicker for me in this is probably the tail end, right? Doing what has to be done without being concerned about what other people think about it. What an Aquarian frame of mind, right? It's just kind of like, whatever, whatever people are going to think what they're going to think. I don't really care. That reminds me of Uranus. That reminds me of 23 degrees. And when the sun and the moon come together in the sign of Leo, it means on a personal level, we have to get right with that in our heart. Learning that we cannot be put in situations where we are willing to sacrifice or give up our own happiness, or willing to sacrifice or give up our own freedoms when it comes to self-expression, right? And that square to Uranus is basically saying something is rapidly changing. It's transforming. This is about innovations, right? Uranus is about technology. It's about the collective. I'm looking to the same usual suspects that have kind of come to mind when I think of Taurus, and I also think of Leo as the people who are going to be kind of causing the most ruckus throughout this next particular month. I would be looking, to be honest with you, at the actors, the creators, the children, the younger people as the next leg of what's eventually going to be like this resistance or this revolution or this like uprising that's taking place. Uranus is about awakening, to our inner awareness. It's like a higher octave almost of, some astrologers would say, Mercury, because, we see exaltations in some practices of Mercury in the sign of Aquarius. Others would also see this as, connections to the spirit or, intuition, maybe. So when we look at Taurus, this can be banks, this can be financial institutions, this can also be themes revolving around farmers, right? It's about the land, it's about the earth in the sign of Taurus. And so we've definitely seen, in recent months, lots going on in other parts of the world, not in the United States as much, revolving around like these protests for the farmers who are protesting, no, we have to stay true to tradition and we need to continue to work with the land. We need to continue to focus on the preservation of our planet and continue to keep, having that relationship with Earth and not giving way to technology and like allowing, lab grown meats and allowing mass production of food and like GMOs and like really pushing back against some of this, green green agenda that's kind of going on. So when you have a square, 90 degrees, an opening square, it represents that crisis. So I'm thinking like with all this Leo, what celebrities, what famous people, what leaders are potentially bringing attention to some of the rapid growth, Jupiter, Uranus, that's taking place with tech, right? That where the money is as well. I think of like the square as being like some people really reevaluating their alliances. You know, the South Node is now in Libra. And as the South Node ruler, Venus, goes retrograde, a lot of people are looking at things going, you know, should I have made that decision to align myself with that product, that thing that I bought, Taurus? Was that a good idea? You know, has it actually had a negative impact on my happiness? You know, is having the expensive car in the garage actually bringing me happiness? It looks really good on Instagram, but is it bringing me happiness? Do I have fulfillment? I think this is also going to be about a lot of people really reevaluating, you know, what it means to have fun and, you know, getting back to simpler times and perhaps being a little reminiscent, especially of things, you know, when we were children, when we were kids, because that's what Leo is all about. I've been super sad all day because obviously, as many of you guys might have heard as this is kind of coming out, you know, we had, what was his name? Paul Rubens, also known as Pee Wee Herman, right? He unfortunately passed, which was kind of shocking. You know, Venus retrograde in Leo takes yet another performer, unfortunately. And it got me really like thinking about, you know, because when I was little, I really loved Pee Wee Herman. It sounds kind of weird, but it was like, he was like my childhood hero, probably like that in Indiana Jones. And I really loved him because he was weird and wacky and like different. So I grew up, you know, I was born in the late 80s, but I grew up in the 90s and I was always watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure and I was watching Pee-wee's Playhouse. But I remember watching Pee-wee's Big Adventure on VHS and I would, you know, put it in, watch the whole movie, pull it out, rewind it, watch it again. And when I was little, I remember being like, I know I will have made it when I have Pee Wee Herman's bike. And that was like my obsession when I was a little kid. Probably about 5 or 6 years ago, my dad gave me a red like Schwinn bike for Christmas with the tassels and like the whole 9 yards. And like when I got it for Christmas, I like cried my eyes out because I was like, oh, it's so perfect. And spent like months like going and trying to source and find like all the parts and the pieces that I was going to order for the bike to be able to put the bike together. And so it sounds silly, right? But when I was younger, it was like such a cool thing. Like I really idolized him because he was just weird and he didn't feel like he had to fit in. And even throughout the whole, you know, movie of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that seems to be like this cast of like all these like normal people who just would kind of like be in awe of just like his outfit and his like weirdness and like wackiness. Recently moved to San Antonio, and one of the first things I wanted to do when I got here was I was like, I have to go and see the Alamo, you know, not just because of the history. Okay, I know some people are giving me a hard time about that. Yes, I wanted to see it for historical reasons, but also I wanted to see it because I think back to when I was a little kid watching, you know, Pee-wee get this reading from this like bullshit psychic who's looking into a crystal ball, basically telling him, oh, your missing bike, it's in the Alamo. So here I am like 33 years old going and seeing the Alamo and there's all these tourists everywhere and I'm like reciting lines from Pee-wee's Big Adventure, right? I was that person. But the reason why I think I've been so upset about him, you know, dying is because I was like, oh my God, that's like a piece of my childhood. So it's had me like reminiscing and like thinking about the impact that has had on me being able to kind of be weird and fly my freak flag and like be okay being different, because I think he served as that for a lot of individuals, especially like younger kids. So how does this tie into this? I mean, 23 degrees is where you fly your freak flag, right? It's just like you're going to go your own way. You don't care what other people think. Who gives a shit? You're going to wear and do whatever it is that you want to do, regardless of what people think. But also Leo is about the heart. So it's the heart of the matter. What your heart is telling you, creatively what you know you need to be working on, how you need to be expressing yourself, telling that person that you love them, or being able to participate in that thing that like really makes your heart sing. Regardless of, with the squares to Uranus, the pushback that you might get. I think, you know, For me, I've seen a lot of these squares play out over the last couple of years with people, especially with like as Saturn was in Aquarius. And I've seen a lot of people really have some amazing breakthroughs if they had squares from their 2nd to their 5th house, or from, you know, from Taurus to Leo or Leo to Aquarius, because these are financial signs. And where Taurus wants to focus on grinding, producing, creating from the sense of like physical need, right? Money, food, resources. Leo says, I want to create because I want to create. There doesn't always have to be a financial purpose with Leo. Not that Leos don't see the potential of being able to make it and be successful, but I think they're more fixated on, wouldn't it be amazing that I could be recognized for what I've created and love doing it the whole time? That's genuinely what the 5th house energy is all about, right? The sun, what makes us burn. And I think a lot of people with this new moon are going to find throughout this lunar transit that there are some things that money cannot buy. It doesn't matter, you know, like you have people that are very, very, very wealthy who can also be completely unfulfilled. And it can just go to show you that like money really can't buy happiness, and vice versa. You see the same things on both ends of the spectrum. But, you know, I definitely think that there's something about this new moon that's going to push a lot of people to really reevaluate where their values are, and also reevaluate how they can better express themselves, regardless of if it goes against certain narratives or certain collective values, right? Going like, that doesn't matter, I don't need that, that doesn't make me happy. And like not having a problem saying that, which I think is, I have hope for humanity that throughout this next month, we're going to see some amazing things happen. I'm hoping we're going to see some people who have been paid to either promote or be involved with or advertise things that genuinely is not natural or is not healthy or is not beneficial for humanity, to have a change of heart and realize probably shouldn't have taken that paycheck, probably shouldn't have promoted that particular product, probably should not have sold out in this way, right? And so Venus is retrograding, it's doing its thing. So I think that's part of this. But this is an anything goes type of energy, you know, for this entire month. You know, the sun in Leo is the personal passion, the personal desire, square to Uranus and Taurus, to challenge an ever-changing, evolving, growing technological and physical or financial system. So where the individual is saying, okay, but where is taking the paycheck, you know, actually inhibiting my creative sense of self-expression or fulfillment or happiness or fun? So I, for one, will be looking to the actors, the creators, the younger people, to be kind of bringing this forward and kind of saying to everybody, like, this is potentially a problem. Now, this is also going to be pretty big for the stock market, because the stock market is speculative, so it is a Leo energy. And the fact that Venus is retrograding, and perhaps we're going to see, especially like the 14th, 15th coming into the 16th, these squares to Uranus is where potentially the stock market is experiencing what can be some turbulence because of this particular square. Now, I think that it might be some really big news revolving around gold, right? That's what Leo is. It can be also in regards to news revolving around banks or cryptocurrencies. As I'm filming this, apparently there's like more like, you know, smaller coins and things that are kind of like having breakdowns and stuff, because there's new decisions being made revolving around essentially like what is and is not going to be considered, I guess, valuable. So I wonder if this is part of it, that it's already, you know, starting to kind of happen. I also wonder if there is going to be some news coming out potentially with the tech world as well, right? I want to read to you guys just a couple little bits from Archetypal Universe, just to give you a little bit more flavor, because like Ren Butler does such an amazing job in being able to really explain these energies very well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the sun in conjunction with Uranus, and then I'm going to throw some of the moon themes in there as well. And when I say conjunction, when we have obviously the square, so the sun and the moon are in conjunction, but they're squaring Uranus. So it's going to give you some kind of like flavor of some of these themes. Squares, though, can be more challenging. So I'm going to read to you guys the shadow qualities because I feel like we're going to see more of the shadow qualities because that's a harder angle to deal with. So qualities of impatience, restlessness, right? Quirkiness, being eccentric, impracticality, unreliable, erratic, unpredictable behavior, unfocused, excessive self-will, problems with authority figures, the inability to cooperate, compromise, unwillingness to commit, ineffective, counterproductive, rebellion, tendencies towards manic self-celebration, and the cult of the hero, Christ complex. I could definitely see that. But principles, when you see Sun-Uranus kind of combinations, is a heightened sense of freedom, individuation and independence, unique opportunities for creative self-expression, unexpected breakthroughs, and awakening. The brilliance of light and rebirth, manic self-celebration, willful erratic behavior, urges for independence, the inability to cooperate or compromise with other people. Now, when we throw the moon in there, because there is also so many awesome combinations, you can get up, I guess, up to like 3 or so. This would be Sun, Uranus, and Moon. A brilliant, exciting vitality, creative freedom, originality, natural spontaneity, aliveness, radiant enthusiasm for life, manic hyperactivity, impulsiveness, willful eccentricity, unpredictability, unwillingness to cooperate and compromise. You notice how many times that's come up? The unwillingness to cooperate and compromise, where our hearts are unwilling to compromise, right? It's interesting that Aquarius energy or Uranian energy is uniting through the awareness of the need to recognize and acknowledge and really hold space, not just be tolerant. That's something I've noticed. It's not about being tolerant. It's about holding space and almost agreeing to disagree if you have to, or just allowing other people to kind of, coexist and do their own thing. And there's this breaking apart and coming together. Breaking apart, coming together, right? So Taurus is supposed to be stable. Uranus is not stable. So what we've been seeing with the financial systems and things that have been going on also with technology and like resources and the planet is there's been this pressure and then things break apart and then it comes together. Now, I mean, some of my conspiracy theorist followers would say, well, yeah, you're creating pressure, you're creating stress, you're creating environmental issues, you're creating financial issues to unite people. And I think there's a little bit of truth there. But I believe that this particular square is going to be more revolving around where people are realizing, okay, there is this pressure, I'm going to go and get creative and I'm going to do something about it, rather than feeling like I'm a victim of what's been happening. And when enough people kind of tune into that Uranian individual frequency, 23 degrees, I know what my higher purpose is. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And sometimes that I know what I'm supposed to be doing is completely counter of what we're told to do, right? And that natural, rebellious, instinctual knowing, no, I'm not supposed to do this. Everything's telling me not to do it. And Taurus is kind of like the herd mentality. You know, the last several years of having Uranus and Taurus has been very mind-boggling for me to see some people kind of just go along with things and like not question it. And my concern is that if we continue to go down that path where we're not using common sense and we're not being reasonable and we're not taking time to really think things through and ask questions and check in with ourselves, are we ultimately sacrificing some of our freedoms? Reminds me of a quote by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter apparently to his son-in-law, a long letter. I read through the whole thing, but this quote has always kind of struck me. I guess being a natural, my chart ruler is conjunct Uranus, my North Node's in Aquarius, so I'm a bit of a shit disturber myself. He said, the tree of liberty must be refreshed from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. And no, that's not me encouraging you guys to do those things. But I think that this is more him speaking to the fact that in order for there to be opportunity for innovation, renewal, right, to just turn things upside down and shake everything loose maybe, and have the opportunity for a fresh, brand new energy, for there to continue to be growth, then we are going to see that there is going to be challenges, there's going to be disagreements, there's going to be problems that are going to come from both sides, that patriots ultimately do have to challenge tyrants, right? In order for us to have liberty. I don't know. I think the other side of this is, the conjunction to Lilith. I think with Lilith being in the mix, it's definitely spicy, to say the least. I'm waiting for this like really juicy, out in the world kind of scandal to emerge revolving around some kind of like vixen that's going to be outing somebody for something or exposing something. I think that's very possible. Obviously, when we think of Lilith, we think of desire and passion and self-expression. And in the sign of Leo, it's somebody who's demanding the spotlight, who really wants to be able to show that and to bring that forward. So there can be some very seductive energies that are coming in also that's potentially putting the pressure on everybody collectively to hand over their wallets, right, to invest in something, to buy something, to idolize something. So Lilith is definitely going to be a big piece of this particular new moon, which has like a very raw kind of sexual connection as well. I'm wondering if we're going to see symbolism revolving around Lilith, which can be, nude, and it can, involve things revolving around, like darker goddess kind of nature. But in the sign of Leo, it's going to be like lioness energy, right? Fierce, primal. And that's square to Uranus as well, is I think where you're going to see some stuff going on with, the feminist movement for sure. That's definitely always very much linked to Lilith transits, and Lilith needs to be activated by other planets to see some of this stuff, actually appear out in the world. So having the new moon in conjunction to Lilith and also Venus does make me think that it's going to be about more on this, child sex trafficking topic out in the world, themes revolving around, children in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry. I think we're going to definitely be hearing more and more about that stuff. Just a couple notes that I have here is that Venus will also return to this degree. So we know that when we have new moons, if there's a retrograde going on, or if we know that there's going to be an eclipse aspecting this degree or anything of that nature, it'll reactivate this particular new moon. So that tells me, with Venus being, a beneficial planet, there are more blessings yet to come. So we are going to find that on October 1st, 2023, Venus returns to 23 degrees just after she is in a square with Uranus. So as Venus is been going retrograde, she's been squaring off with Uranus. We saw the first one around the beginning of July. We're going to be experiencing another one just before this particular new moon, and then we're going to have one more at the end of September. So it's kind of like the stress test that we've been feeling in our relationships and with our values. But when she comes out of that final square and she's getting ready to kind of finally end the retrograde shadow, it tells me that it can be bringing you more sweetness, bringing you more abundance, bringing you more creative inspiration. So such an important time to be setting intentions, because you might find that if you're willing to actually do something different, if you dare to be bold and go against the grain, it may actually benefit you, right? Now, like I said, strong Uranian energy, lightning. So things that happen lightning fast, bold, quickening, sudden changes, breaking free. That tells me all month long this is going to be happening. So you guys don't want to just be looking at this one particular new moon. To really make astrology work for you, you guys have to be paying attention to where the moon is and where things are getting reactivated, which means you want to be watching when the moon goes through Scorpio several days later. You want to also be paying attention when the moon goes into Aquarius several weeks later, and about a week and a half later, and then when the moon comes into Taurus. Basically, when the moon is in the fixed signs, okay, it's going to reactivate this, and you're going to start to see the squares and where there's going to be, some intensity and some pressure and some breakdown. In particular, Scorpio and Aquarius are the two lunar transits that I would be watching, because you're going to see more of the themes of this full moon come full circle. If you're wanting to make a sudden change this month, if you're wanting to take a risk or try to work on a creative business, or if you're hoping to be able to, put something together that you're really passionate about, or take a chance in an investment or a relationship, this is kind of like the moon to do it, right? It's like now or never. Obviously, with understanding that it's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to really start to see some results, and up to about 6 months for you to see it come full circle. But this is probably going to be the moon that's going to be kicking off some of the more significant events in about 6 months. So if we were to look at the full moon, in Aquarius, in Leo, what am I saying? So we're going to have this full moon that's going to be in Leo, in opposition to Pluto. So this will be January 25th, 2024. I know some of you guys are like, yeah, it's so far away, but this is something you want to be ready for. The Sun and Pluto will be in conjunction, which basically is essentially in so many ways going to be the real significant change for everyone, right? That might be scary. It might be something that is revolutionary, right? This is going to be also with a square to Jupiter. And the ruler, Uranus, is retrograde. Saturn also co-rules. So it's kind of slightly sextiling. But a full moon in Leo with the Sun in opposition to Pluto, I want everybody to mark their calendars for the end of January 2024, knowing that that's when it's like, oh, this is happening. Jupiter's the T-square to this moon. Where is Jupiter? In Taurus. So there is still some other growth, sudden change going on with what? Money, resources, law, travel. So then we're also going to see that there's going to be trines to the North Node. All right. So new moon, Sun and Moon conjunction, trine the North Node. So this is really positive. Now we're starting to see some stuff that's like actually working with these nodes in a much more productive way. The North Node obviously is about moving into a more self-directed future, Aries. So when we see these fire trines, it means that the intentions and the actions and the things that we're creating and we're focusing on, that we enjoy, that we love doing, is really helping us grow into our most authentic self, North Node in Aries. It's helping us really focus on the direction where we're going on a personal level. At the same time, when we see trines to the North Node, it means that we will also see sextiles, which is supporting to the South Node. So that means that we're also going to be breaking free from the past, right? Letting go of old relationships, clearing the karma and partnerships, falling out of certain relationships that are not benefiting us, releasing them if necessary. Remember, Venus rules that. And, Libra is third house to Leo. So it does represent, letting go of old ways of thinking, limited ways of thinking, right? Where, I can't do what I need and, be in this relationship because I risk the relationship if I, behave a certain way. So I need to focus more on what other people are thinking, saying, needing. I need to be pleasing. No, North Node's in Aries. That's not really what we're doing right now. So I like that we're moving into a self-directed future while at the same time learning to communicate, think and share and speak differently, right? Now, we're going to be seeing that as long as we're taking action, right, Aries, during this new moon, taking action and focusing on creating our heart's desires, things are going to fall into place. We've got Mercury that is in conjunction to Mars, right? So there is this very words in action, very specific, orderly, being of service. Mercury is the mind, okay? So it's traveling, it's business, it's communication, it's writing. Mars is action. So there's a lot of do this, do that, go this way, do this, getting things in order, especially with all the trines to Taurus. So this is also second house to Leo. So getting things in order financially, physically, getting work done, feeling productive. And Mercury and Mars are both in a trine to Uranus. Mars more so, but Mercury's pretty close. But when we see Mars, which can be action, it can be fire, right? It can be anything in regards to speed. That trine to Uranus is very much giving us sudden leaps forward, quick moving energy. This is also the energy of fire, right? If Mars is the action, Uranus is the friction and striking the match. So there can be sudden events that can take place, especially earthly events from this particular new moon. Then we're going to be seeing, you know, obviously Venus is retrograde in the sign of Leo. It's coming back into a square with Jupiter within about 4 degrees. So this is about, you know, reevaluating big feelings, big values, big resources. This is also where we have overdone it and where there has been such a focus almost on what we're consuming that we're losing almost touch with what it means to just be, to have fun, to enjoy life, to keep things simple, where we're kind of getting lost and kind of getting stuck in like the rat race. And then with Venus trine Chiron and Aries, I like that as well. It's a pretty tight trine. Healing ourselves, you know, working through our own personal wounds, being able to almost use art as therapy. It's like, I think some adults might, you know, underestimate the true value of like going and getting like, you know, like an art set, painting, drawing, creating, sculpting, you know, being able to play, just playing for the sake of playing, not because you feel like you need something, doing it because you enjoy doing it, because it brings happiness. You know, relax, do like a coloring book or something like that. That can be really helpful with this square. What I'm not wild about is the Mars opposed Neptune, because that is building at the time of this particular new moon. And so there can be a sense of questioning our sense of direction, our sense of, you know, yeah, our sense of direction, our purpose maybe. Mars in Virgo, it needs a purpose. And Neptune will create this situation where we are more confused, we're having a lower energy. If you guys caught my videos that I've done where I talk about both Mercury and Mars being in the sign of Virgo, I talk about where you want to lean more into the trines with Jupiter and Uranus, which is like take your time, really focus on how your body feels, don't overdo it, don't overwork. Be better with making changes to your schedule rather than just working through something, because then you're going to experience burnout, especially with oppositions to Saturn and Neptune in the 9th house. It does talk about energy, you know, things that we can't see, things that are invisible, that are kind of limiting us, trying to get us to stop, rest, slow down, and reevaluate. And then we're going to also see Mars is also kind of coming into a trine with Pluto, right? So about 5 degrees away from an opposition to Neptune and about 6 degrees away from a trine with Pluto. So kind of contradicting energies, if I do say so. That tells me that there can be opportunities for powerful displays of focus. Lots of attention to details, right, Virgo? An opportunity to really take action and to be going towards our desire. Now, obviously, you guys know, one of the things that has come up a lot during the Venus retrograde has been the fact that Venus has been in conjunct Neptune and also in conjunct Pluto. So we've seen like this, yod that's been kind of taking place off and on throughout the summer that's basically saying Venus is the star. Venus is reevaluating everything to do with love, balance, harmony, style, self-expression, to be able to cut through the cloudiness of Neptune and the feeling of being oppressed by Pluto, that it's going to take people who are very loud and out there that are going to start standing up and saying everything that they need to say, especially because this is all trining the North Node in Aries, which is 9 signs away from Leo. So there's a lot of being on the soapbox right now and being like, this is what's going on in the world and this is what I have to say. And here's this piece of art that I created to express, how I'm feeling. And maybe other people will resonate with that. And some people won't. There's going to probably be so many difference of opinions throughout the next month. It's going to make your head spin. Be mindful that, Mercury is also coming. Mercury is full-blown in shadow when this is happening, and it's getting ready to retrograde. So there's going to be a lot of people that are probably putting on very loud displays of being like, you need to know what's going on. And some people are going to be like, you're crazy. Oppositions to Neptune. Why are you making such a big deal about this? It's not what you think. There are so many people in independent media right now. There are so many content creators. There are people out there who are trying to kind of wake up the masses. And I anticipate that this might be that moment where some people are being given the platform or the stage to be able to do it the next month. It doesn't mean that you have to be an activist. It means that you could be an artist. It means that you can be working with younger people. You can be working with children. So those of you guys who are teachers, those of you guys who are also involved in the arts, those of you guys who are involved in media and entertainment as well, I do see a lot of opportunity for there to be, you know, a way to be bringing attention to some of the things that are going on in the world right now, which I do think are going to affect the masses. Unfortunately, not a lot of people seem to really care unless it's affecting their bottom line. So unless it's affecting your pocketbook, your resources, your job, your food, maybe your kids, then you'll pay attention. But all of this squaring Uranus means that everybody is about to be finding out that some of the events that are going to be taking place over the next 6 months is going to have a dramatic effect on everybody collectively. Need I remind you that full moon that's going to be at the end of January will be in opposition to Sun and Pluto. I think a lot of this is going to be about challenging some of the growth that's going on with technology, and whether or not it's taking away from our authentic creative expression, whether or not it's negatively impacting younger generations, right? And not allowing them to actually have the opportunity to like be kids and be creative and be imaginative. And all month long, you guys are going to see things just like suddenly progress forward. So you want to be ready for some of those potential tower moments, as much as you're going to hear a lot of astrologers and spiritual people talk about, oh, it's a new moon and it's so magical and it's peaceful and you take time and you meditate. Yes, you can still do all of those things. It's totally fine. But I do personally feel like this is kind of like the lid is going to be pretty much blowing off all month long. Let me give you those other 2 dates really quick before I forget for the lunar transits. And then I'm going to take you guys through the 12 signs. Okay, so I want you guys to watch when the moon hits Scorpio and squares this. So around the 23rd of August, that's when you're going to feel the pressure. And then again, when the moon goes through Aquarius. So I would say like the 29th of August, because it will be opposing these degrees, okay? And then obviously, you know, next lunation will be that full moon conjunct Saturn limitation. So it's almost like there's going to be a month of wildness, squares to Uranus, and then it's, oh, well, we're reining this in. No, you guys can't do that. It's not safe. Things are getting too crazy. You know, we need to make sure everybody's safe. That's what you're going to see at the end of summer, unfortunately. And then eventually, you know, as we get to the beginning of the year, in 2024, I think we're going to see more of that. We're going to see more limitation. We're going to see more control. We're going to see more censorship. And I think there's a reason right now why some of these creative industries are making the decision to strike. I definitely think that there's something to it. I think it's very much connected. All right, so let's plug this in for everyone. There we go. I'm going to talk to you guys about the 12 rising signs and their prediction. There we go. Obviously, this is going to be for the whole sign predictions. So I recommend for you guys, let's see, there we go, that you listen to your whole sign, unless if you want to listen to Placidus, you're listening to 23 degrees. You have to find which house 23 degrees of Leo is in. And that's where you're going to see this taking place. I'll do tarot as well. And as a reminder, I'm a whole sign. I'm a Western astrologer practicing the whole sign method. So you might want to listen for your rising sign, and then you want to listen to your sun sign, and then you want to listen to your moon sign, okay? All right, so this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. What's up, guys? Hopefully you're doing well. You've got this new moon taking place in your 5th house, where there's been lots of action recently. The 5th house is about the inner child. It's about creativity, romance, taking chances, love, and self-expression. So you're setting new intentions revolving around these things in your life here. It's really interesting, especially if you happen to be, an Aries sun, moon, or rising around 22 to 24 degrees. You're going to be feeling that the most. This is a sister sign, so you'll experience some kind of trine in some way, shape, or form to your personal planets in Aries. This is a good time with the sun being in the 5th house to focus on, what do you love? What's going to bring you the most joy? What's going to bring you the most pleasure? Where are you willing to step outside of the box and take a risk with creative self-expression? These squares to your 2nd house seem to kind of symbolize that in order for you to grow and evolve from a self-esteem standpoint, from a financial standpoint, when it comes to your resources, there is a need for you to really get in touch with what it is that you love to do. It can be a wonderful time also to be thinking about dating, getting back into making more of an effort, maybe for those of you guys who are committed, to have like date nights and, setting things up and doing more with your partners because Venus is in the mix. This is a new moon that can also be kicking off new projects, new creative projects, especially if you're self-employed. And I do see the opportunity for you to be really reevaluating what risks you're willing to take because it may potentially bring big results, right? And for some of you guys, because of Venus's connection being in this house, the retrograde here can talk about realizing why you committed to the person that you committed to, why you love the person that you love, rethinking and reevaluating also just ways of being able to kind of bring romance or love back into your life. And those of you guys that are single, use this as an opportunity to set intentions to be connecting with people that are going to make you feel like young at heart again, right? All right, so let's take a look. Let's see what the cards say for you. The card that I got for you is the Knight of Pentacles. So this is potentially like a message or a messenger. It can be an earth sign, so it can be a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn that comes through. But Knights always bring a message revolving around its element. And so the Pentacles are about health, it's about investment, it's about money, it's about resources. So I wonder if this is about you going like, I have a hunch, I'm gonna take a chance on like this stock and I have a good feeling about it. Or, I think I am gonna get back into like doing this hobby because I feel like I could potentially turn it into like a side hustle or a business. Being more financially minded is like a theme here. But this can also be being cautious and taking your time when it comes to approaching a new romance or a relationship, or, taking a risk potentially, thinking everything through before you make a move, okay? Good luck, Aries. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, Taurus? Lots of action in your house, Taurus. We've got the new moon taking place in the 4th. And I say your house because Venus is in your 4th house, and Venus is your planetary ruler. So I've heard from a lot of Taurus and Taurus risings. They've been saying there's been a lot of change going on the home front with Venus retrograde there. So maybe reimagining where you could be living or how you want the household to look. Reevaluating things revolving around your relationship with your past, maybe a parent, your roots. And so Venus being in this house with this new moon means that I would be paying attention to the events revolving around this particular new moon, because it might be extra important for you personally, if not for your home and family, for you on an emotional level. A new moon in the 4th house is great when it comes to looking for a new home, looking to get ready to sign a lease, to move, when you're looking to return home. The moon is very comfortable in the 4th house, so it's interesting to see the moon and Venus there. It tells me that there can be like a really sweet opportunity to reunite with relatives or to connect with a woman in the home. I do feel like there can be a lot of action revolving around that. And Venus doesn't just rule your 1st house, it also rules your 6th. So it can also be about you wanting the home to look a certain way or wanting to tweak or perfect things. And so I think with the squares to Jupiter and Uranus in your 1st house is like you're feeling a little restless and you're like, I want to make a change at home. I don't know how, but I feel like I need to kind of break free For some of you guys, the solution is quite literally getting out of the house, right? And setting the intentions to be like, you know what, I love my home. I can't move right now, or we can't sell, or, you know, I'm not ready yet to kind of get my own place. But the square might actually prompt you to go, you know, I'm going to go visit family. Maybe I'm going to do an overnight at a sibling's house. Maybe I am going to go and venture into a new area or a new city and check it out before I make the move. So it is going to have you feeling a little restless. My advice is that if you can't have a change in your situation and you can't go anywhere, reimagine your space, move some things around, feng shui your space maybe. Maybe it's going to be about, you know, also doing like a cleaning, because Venus is involved in the 4th house, cleansing the home, rearranging the home, shake everything out, get everything out, and reorganize some things. And that might also kind of help buy you some time if you're feeling a little restless. But it can be the beginning of setting intentions revolving around what might be over the next 6 months a pretty significant change when it comes to your home or your living situation or your family. And I do think it's going to be about you reevaluating what you need, what is best for you, and whether that's you and your family, you and a partner, or just you on an emotional level, because Venus is factored into this particular moon, okay? Let's see what the cards say for you, Taurus. Oof. I get the 8 of Swords, which is not surprising to me, because I do feel like, you know, the squares that are taking place to Uranus is about you kind of feeling trapped, right? Being like, I got to get out of here. I feel personally that this is a self-limiting thing. Like, it can all be up here. You know, what you're willing to make of the situation. We know at the 8 of Swords that there is a sense of somebody feeling trapped or kind of stuck, or that their hands are tied, but it can be mental limitations. And if it's not about leaving the house or relocating or making changes at home, it can be about working yourself out of emotional patterns, working your way through what can be, you know, dealing with the past and like acknowledging the past and learning to let the past go, and not allowing that to inhibit you from making change and moving forward. Remember, throughout this Venus retrograde, Venus is actually looking at the 3rd house. So it tells me that some of you guys are realizing that you have to reconnect with a sibling, even though you may not be wild about it, or that you may have to sign a new lease, or you may have to move, and you might be kind of reluctant to want to make a change. But so much of the Venus retrograde, especially with the trines, you're going to see is that change can actually be good. Change can be a good thing. And not feeling like you're stuck in a situation that you cannot get out of. Lean more into the Jupiter-Uranus, the I'm being positive, change can be good, anything is possible, let's just, you know, go on an adventure and see what happens, might actually be the solution. And I do think you're getting a lot of support right now from the cosmos with planets that are moving through Virgo, because it is trining your ascendant. Perhaps some of the actual home change or the family change is brought on because of a change in a relationship, right? Because of a change that might involve children as well, because you're going to have a retrograde that's going to be going through your 3rd house, your 5th house. So something is kind of brewing there. And I encourage you guys to be open to some of these changes, and whatever's going on for you emotionally with your family or on the home front is very important over these next few weeks. Good luck. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. What's going on, Gemmies? How are you guys doing? We're going to be experiencing a new moon in Leo that will be taking place in your natal 3rd house, which is all about communication, siblings, learning, gadgets, cars, travel. And this is an energy, because air and fire get on well together, that sextiles your ascendant. You also seem like you may be one of those signs that might be having some changes going on with the home or the living situation, okay? Just forewarning, you're getting ready to have a Mercury retrograde in your 4th, and this new moon is in the 3rd. So with the sun and the moon being there, I'm really looking at the focus on the need to communicate, right? To write, to share, to learn, to send an email, you know, make a phone call, and setting intentions and taking action in that particular area. I do think that with Venus going retrograde through here, it is trying to get you to be more mindful of your subconscious. It's probably trying to get you to like journal more often or take time to meditate or be writing down your dreams. Maybe you're, focusing on trying to kind of like get into the habit of doing this stuff more. I think a new moon here can be about setting intentions revolving around potentially moving, where the third house is movement, the fourth house is the home. So I notice you have a retrograde that's already going on in the third house of movement. So maybe you're reevaluating a move, maybe you're reevaluating a relationship with a sibling. There may be a sense of also you having some options when it comes to changing a vehicle, maybe changing your mind. I would set intentions revolving around communicating more from a heart-centered space. That's just me. I also think that some of the sextiles to your ascendant is wonderful because Gemini is kind of like a third house energy. So it's about being able to communicate and share. But Leo is like what really interests you the most or what you're the most passionate about. And perhaps what new intentions you're setting revolving around the apps that you're using, the websites that you're using, the ways that you're communicating is allowing you also to connect better with other people because of the trine to the North Node in your 11th house. So some of you guys are really thinking maybe about launching a website, a YouTube, maybe a podcast or something like that. And maybe you're going through the creative process right now of trying to figure out, well, like, how do these pieces come together? And like, how do I better express myself to my audience? Take a little bit of time, okay? You want to use the next month throughout this transit to kind of like problem solve. Because I do feel like some of the squares that you're experiencing to Jupiter and Uranus is like still trying to ground out some of these energies and still trying to figure out, well, how am I going to shoot it? And like, what is the message? And like, what is the purpose? And like, I need to meditate on it a little bit more, or I need to be working around with some like gadgets before I potentially go and start this new way of being able to communicate or share. Yes, this might be for some of you guys setting intentions, like I said, around buying a vehicle, but with a retrograde here, I would wait a little bit. Same thing with moving, if possible. I would wait a little bit if that's possible. You want to see how these two retrogrades play out through September, and then you're going to have a better idea of like where you could go. But, little road trips, getting out of town and doing stuff, running more errands, things like that can definitely come with the new moon in the third house. The focus is just finding ways to communicate more authentically. Wow, I like this for you. The Ace of Coins. Valuable ideas, right? Valuable ideas, because the Ace of Coins is about new financial opportunities, some new seed that you're planting, new moon, something that could be lucrative, something that could bring abundance, Venus. And so I do think that you're realizing maybe you have a really good idea to write a book, launch a website, start a podcast, sell a course, teach something. But a lot of this is being able to kind of ground out those ideas and make them real. Leo is just more about action and creativity. There's nothing really grounding. So while the ideas are there, the steps, the practicality, the procedures, everything you need to do to actually make that thing physically happen still seems a little cloudy. And so this is a card that can be dealing with a 1 month, working time. So I do think that I would give it the 1 month to be able to work through some of this stuff. And I do think that you're going to be more clear about what you're hoping to kind of commit to within that 1 month. But it looks like you have some really good ideas that could also be about contracts and negotiations and signing things and financial agreements. So this could be the beginning of getting ready to do some of those things as well. Hope that's helpful. Good luck. For Cancer and Cancer rising, what's going on, guys? You have a new moon taking place in Leo in your second house, which is all about your resources, okay? Abundance, self-esteem, but also your talent. So where you can make your talent into something that can actually bring you more abundance, where you can be showing that to the world and taking some of these talents that you have and making something happen financially. The second house is about our spending power. So this would be the one time a year that you have that new moon where you're setting intentions to bring in more resources. So if you're needing to manifest more money for something, if you're wanting to buy something, if you're wanting to focus on your self-esteem and like really building yourself up and feeling more valuable and aligning with that, this would be the time to do it. I do feel like this is a very strong new moon with Venus in the second house where it's very comfortable, even in spite of its retrograde. I feel like this is also in a trine to this energy in your 10th house where a lot of Cancer and Cancer risings are focusing on new career opportunities. They're wanting to grow professionally. Perhaps this is a time where you're reevaluating your worth and realizing that you actually need more, that you can achieve more, that you can bring in more. So this is the time that you want to focus on those things. And I'm also aware that, being that you're ruled by the moon, you are really sensitive to when we have, both new and full moons. So being that moon's going to hit Venus, which can be about your goals, suddenly a goal comes through. And Venus also relates to home and family. There can be like some goal revolving around, okay, I need to make more money so I can feel like I can, have a bigger place. Or I can potentially help my family. Or I can be able to pay off a mortgage. That can come up here. And the fact that the moon is going to square off with Jupiter and Uranus, it looks like you're coming into this new moon really feeling the effects of like, I have these new goals or I have these new groups of people I want to connect with. And it's pushing me or they're encouraging me to build myself back up and see my value and see my worth. So that way that can kind of flow freely into some new opportunities that are actually coming from you creatively. So this is a financial moon for you. Be mindful, like I said, 6 months from now when we have the full moon, it's going to be in the 8th house, and it looks like that you may really see the full effects of just how much more financially sound you can be and how much more you could be bringing in within about 6 months' time. But also when Venus comes back to this degree, I think you're going to realize that, by October, some of the intentions that you set during this new moon, you're going to already be seeing and feeling some of that abundance kind of coming in. I would recommend, obviously for everybody, but, for you, do something revolving around setting intentions with fire. Like, take your intentions and write them down, and, you can burn some cinnamon or you can burn a candle or something revolving around that and set those intentions physically. Find a way to kind of ritualize it because the second house is very physical. And then watch that grow, watch everything kind of start to come in, especially over the next 2 to 4 weeks. The card they get for you is the Nine of Swords. So I'm wondering, are you hanging out with Taurus? Was it Taurus or was it Aries? I think it was Taurus. Okay, so here's the way that I see this. The Nine of Swords can be about stress. It can be about being worried about something. Obviously, Cancer risings, especially with Venus retrograde in the second house, it's like, how am I going to figure out this financial situation? Where is my money coming from? What is the next step? How can I bring in more? And feeling like that effect of financially things can slow down a little bit right now. Nine of Swords is more about, whether or not a situation is getting to a point where you're so stressed out about it that you're not really allowing yourself to do anything about it. It can talk about worries. It can talk about nightmares and like fears of whether or not you're going to overcome something. I would really encourage those of you guys who have some things going on financially that you're not really wanting to deal with, that you are willing to deal with it now. The squares to Uranus can quite literally be like money owed, debts, loans, things that you haven't paid, things that you don't want to look at, bank accounts you don't want to look at. The squares to also planets in your 11th house can be, where actually talking to people about some of these problems, you can get some support, you can get some feedback, you can get some solutions. So support may come in to help you find a way to kind of remedy potentially a financial situation and encourage you to be willing to kind of just, look under the bed and kind of see the situation that you have been wanting to kind of avoid. Because inevitably you are going to see Pluto go into the 8th house and you are going to have a pretty significant financial shift. So now is a good time to really face those problems head on rather than having them kind of looming and hanging over your head. If it's not a financial issue, then it is going to be about dealing with matters revolving around like friendships. And if you've got friendships that have kind of been not so pleasant, and knowing that you need to go through like a change in some of the relationships that you have, and like questioning whether or not you're keeping certain people around for certain reasons or it's time to let them go. because you're just feeling like you're outgrowing them. This can be talking about that as well. And having that anxiety revolving around knowing that you have to kind of cut something loose. Good luck. We've got Leo and Leo rising. Obviously, this is your new moon. Really interesting, especially if it's your birthday, if it's like within a day of your birthday, so like the 15th or the 17th, I'd pay attention. New moon, new you. So you've got a new moon that's taking place involving the sun, obviously. So that's important because the sun rules your chart. And it's in your first house, which is all about you, yourself, your personal goals, your body, your image. And you've got Venus, which is going to be about your reputation and also communication or media. And you also have, the moon there. So this is going to be about a lot of emotions, a lot of eyes maybe being on you, maybe you being more self-focused with your needs, your feelings, and then Venus retrograde being there. So maybe you've been in the process for like the last month or so of feeling like this change that's coming for you physically or with your status or with work. And yes, Venus is still retrograde, so you're going to be feeling the effects of Venus retrograde really for quite some time. Even though Venus goes direct at the beginning of September, it's going to continue to stay in your sign until about October. So good for you because it gives you lots of opportunity to focus on maybe like a makeover or revamping something about your image or making changes in regards to your relationship with yourself. And now getting ready to identify in a completely different way. So where some of you guys were employees, now you're a CEO. Some of you guys were single, now you're married. Some of you guys were always, kind of partnered, but now you're a parent. These can be things that can be happening and just like a complete rebranding. So while new moons are good for that, I think you're setting intentions knowing while Venus is behind the moon that some of these things will not fully kind of settle in until closer to about October, especially as Venus is coming back to this particular degree. Venus is obviously retrograde and looking at the 12th house. So some of you guys might be kind of questioning, like, do I need healing? Do I need a retreat? Do I need, time to go and emotionally kind of like rest and recuperate? So that can be coming up for you guys as well. And what I'm loving is that, one of the strongest aspects in this new moon is the trine to the North Node outside of the square to Uranus. Yes, you could have some friction publicly with a boss or a partner, or there is something new emerging within you where you're realizing like, I don't want to do the same thing I've always done. That's there. But the trine to the North Node, which is like, maybe I do need to have a little faith. Maybe I do need to travel. Maybe I do need to go back to school. I have a lot to learn. That can be coming up here too. And if you are going solo, it's going to be finding new ways to kind of market yourself. So the trines to the North Node can be about that, or connecting with a mentor or a teacher or a guru. But really, it's all about you right now, Leo. The fact that it's in the first house it's not about work. And maybe it's been a lot about work recently because you've had eclipses there and the North Node has been there. Now it's more about your own personal time and travel and philosophy and like how you feel in your skin. And if you're not wild about how you're feeling, change it. But know that other people may have some really strong responses or reactions to some of your physical changes, whether that's changes you're doing to your body cosmetically, changes to your hair, changes to your clothes, to your behavior, and changes in the way that you're communicating. If you find that you've been kind of stressed out and on edge, a lot of these squares to Uranus means that, you might be having some squabbles with some people because you're realizing that you've been putting yourself on back burner, right? You've been kind of watering yourself down a little bit and not being, totally out there the way that maybe you want to be. And so maybe you're starting to get kind of fussy because you're realizing like, man, like I haven't been true to myself and I've been doing everything and giving everything to this work stuff, but now it's about me right now and what I'm enjoying and what I'm like loving. And you're learning how to kind of communicate your needs a little bit better, I think, through this particular transit. So set these intentions, Leo. This is going to be really, really powerful for you. You'll really start to see within the next month that the shift is happening. And I would just say get ready for some of the pushback, both at work, but also with relationships, to some of the changes that you're going through, but you know what's best for you. The card that I got for you is the Fool card, which is connected to Uranus, which is interesting because this is like a Uranian degree, right? So this is about, yeah, how you're kind of doing something new, going your own way, breaking with tradition. There can be a sense of you being like, I don't know how it's going to go, but I'm going to give it a try. Why not? And really just kind of throwing all caution to the wind, unless that's cutting your bangs, okay? Or getting that really bad Leo tattoo. Please, no, right now. No, don't be the fool in that sense. But being optimistic and positive about the future, what the future holds. And I think that even though you're still in kind of like this trial and error period until the fall, this is a really good sign that you're like willing to turn over a new leaf and set new intentions and like really try to do things differently. You're being more innovative. You're thinking more about where you're going in the future and like kind of shedding old skin. Good luck. I love that for you. It's such a great card. For Virgo and Virgo rising, you're having a new moon taking place in the sign of Leo. It'll be going through your natal 12th house. I'm excited to see how this plays out for you because this is a house obviously that's hidden. It's spiritual, it's dreamy. It can deal with past lives, your subconscious, and everything that is kind of like otherworldly, right? Private spaces, so retreat centers, back offices, rooms, studios. It can also be about your hidden talent. To have a new moon here, obviously you're preparing for your birthday season pretty soon. So you've got a whole slew of planets in your 4th house, your 12th house, which can be about kind of resting and recuperating a little bit and like setting intentions revolving around what you're getting ready to let go as you're coming into your birthday season here pretty soon. Now, Mercury, your chart ruler, and Mars are already in your 1st house. So you're already like, okay, we're moving forward. We're doing new things. We're communicating differently. There's been a lot of realizing that what you need may be very different to that of other people, whether that's romantic relationships, clients, friendships, partnerships, whatever. There is definitely like a sense of really kind of realizing like, hey, I actually need to be more focused on me because other people don't always make that mark for me. They don't always show up. There can be a sense of other people also being a little lost or a little confused. And whether that's therapists, that can be partners, that can be friends, that can be clients, whatever. You're going to see throughout the Mercury retrograde in this next month that you're kind of pulling back a little bit and reevaluating your needs. And so I think that's also partially because of the new moon in Leo. And you're going, where can I create my own, kind of magical dreamland? Where can I set my intentions? Where can I create? Like, where can I visualize and manifest things? It's kind of interesting having all this Leo in the 12th house because it does tell me that you're very talented, but you might not be boastful about it. You might be private. So with Venus going retrograde through here, I think you're reevaluating some of your own personal talents, right? Or returning to some things that you have loved to do. If you are somebody who was like a creator or a designer or a performer, or maybe you are a photographer, I could see some of you guys being like, I'm going to go back and start doing that. Or I'm going to go and edit some of those videos or some of those pictures that I haven't kind of touched up in a long time. Yes, there can be some really significant karmic stuff playing out with Venus in this particular house. I think with some of the squares that are taking place to Jupiter and Uranus, it's like you're finally starting to learn the lessons now. You're really integrating the lessons, especially when it comes to relationships at a distance, your philosophy and your beliefs about spirituality, your beliefs about creativity and about your happiness. There can be a feeling of things kind of coming to an end naturally, okay? That's really common with the 12th house because this is where things go to rest. So what's resting is old financial situations, issues revolving around doubt, and not feeling like you're getting the things that you need. And as these things are resting, perhaps it's changing your beliefs, your philosophy. Obviously, traveling and, spirituality can be really helpful right now because it can be helping you kind of seeing some of these blessings, seeing some of these things as blessings in disguise. And that certain things are wrapping up because it's creating more space for you, right? Even though some of you guys may not see that quite yet. I know that that's a little tricky. as planets start coming into Virgo and you start seeing the oppositions between Saturn and Neptune, I think you'll be appreciative of the fact that you've carved out a little bit more time on your own to be private, to rest and kind of recuperate. That's the feeling that I'm getting. And a little bit of faith will get you a long way, right? Especially because of the squares to the 9th house. You need faith to be able to better understand what you're releasing right now. And all these planets in your 1st house that are trining it are saying, okay, if I'm actively praying, if I'm actively meditating, if I'm actively, trying to kind of tap into some kind of a routine that is going to tell me that I'm on the right path, even though I'm having a little bit of doubt right now, it'll kind of help me get by. I think you got to get alone when you have a new moon in the 12th house. And whether that's like a Netflix party for one, or this is like you going out and doing an artist retreat, or, taking a little bit of a break and being out in nature. That's what you got to do. The card that you get is the 4 of Coins, which is interesting because it is about, am I holding on to something too tight? Is it time to let something go, right? And this can be about money because Venus rules your 2nd house and Venus is in the mix. It can also be about you realizing that you've been carrying things with you for too long. It can be guilt, it can be emotions, it can be baggage, it could be pain, it could be karma, carrying something with you that it's time for you just to release and let go of. Need I remind you the North Node is now in the 8th house. So you're going to see planets trining the North Node, which means like, change can be scary, but it can be necessary. Letting go sometimes can be important because it's actually creating an opportunity for a new beginning in that area of your life. So take stock of like where you're holding on to something too tightly, where you're unwilling to kind of move, if you're being a little too rigid, if you're really adamant about the fact that, something has to be a certain way. I know some of you guys are kind of struggling because you're not getting the feedback that you're needing from other people and you're almost feeling like you're kind of like, on your own right now. But there is something really magical about reevaluating things throughout this process and being like, if I'm not getting the response that I want or I'm hitting a dead end, maybe it's time to actually like try a new path forward. Like I'm going to let this be, right? Good luck, Virgo. We've got Libra and Libra rising. What's going on, Libra? You have a new moon in Leo that's getting ready to take place in your natal 11th house. Now, the 11th house is all about friends. It's about goals, networks, and this is also the love that you get from other people. Now, what's interesting about this is that Leo does naturally sextile your sign. So if you have any Libra placements, especially around like the 22 to 24 degrees, you're going to benefit from this the most. And the 11th house sextile to your ascendant allows you to do the things that Libra risings like to do. So it allows you to make, partnerships, relationships, to socialize. It allows you to kind of connect with other people in order to feel like you are, initiating relationships, basically. I think with Venus being retrograde, your ruler in the 11th house, some of you guys are reevaluating what your goals are. You're reevaluating some of your friendships. You're reconnecting with people you haven't seen in a while. So a new moon here can be like after you've connected with some of these people, realizing like, wow, I really wish I can kind of get more back into the swing of making more time for my friends, or, aligning with certain groups, or going to parties or gatherings, or maybe wanting to set more intentions revolving around, certain networking opportunities. And it's very personal because Venus is obviously your chart ruler. I think some of the challenges with this is that you are seeing that there's some squares to Uranus in the 8th house. So there can also be some like psychological things that are coming up where changes in friendships are affecting you psychologically. If you're one of those Libra risings that's going through friend breakups, or if there's been some turbulence in the friendship department, this particular new moon can be an opportunity for you to go, okay, I got to cut and run from that friendship, but like I got to get out there and like make new friends, and it's really important for me to do that. At the same time, you're also going to see that this can be about financial matters and where you're aligning yourself with certain groups of people that are helping you or hindering you financially. The 8th house is the money that other people have access to, your access to it creatively. So this would be a wonderful time to like do like crowdfunding, or if you want to like launch something or like join a group or like a network that might allow other people to kind of better support you. Can there be some shocks or surprises in a friendship? Yes. Whether that's like a sudden break, a breakdown in a friendship, or finding out something, shocking about an existing friendship. I'm not wild about the square to Uranus in the 8th house. I think some people may find that a friend is going through a crisis, or that there is some kind of shocking event related to a friendship that can come up with this particular moon. And then the trine to the North Node in your 7th. So if you're a single Libra rising, if you're looking to meet people, right? And if you want to meet clients, or if you want to meet a new potential mate, definitely being with other people, socializing, going to parties, going to connections, telling your friends you're hoping to meet people and that you want to be introduced to somebody because you're looking, can definitely open the door and make it possible for you to meet someone here as well. All right, so let's take a look and see what the cards say for you, Libra. The card that I get is the 4 of Cups. It's interesting because there's so much like release in this chart. The South Node being in your 1st house is like letting go of an old identity. And I could see like with Venus retrograde, sextile this, like some of you guys may reconnect with friends and then kind of realize like, oh, these are not my people anymore. Now I know why I don't see these people as often, or, we've grown apart. We're in 2 different kind of areas of our life now. I think with the sextile to the South Node, there can also be this feeling of like being left out, or not feeling connected, or feeling forgotten. Not being seen can be another theme. Maybe you're hoping to reconnect with friends and like you're not quite getting people who are making the time to connect or making the commitment to connect. And like, yeah, that can be having an effect on you emotionally, psychologically with the squares to Uranus. I think if with the 4 of Cups, there's like this sense of getting in a funk, or kind of getting your panties in a twist, and like not realizing or recognizing the potential or the opportunity that this might bring. If you're knocking on doors trying to kind of see if people want to hang out, or if they want to socialize or connect with you, and they're not receptive, are you going to pout about it? Are you going to be more focused on the fact that they're not doing anything? Or are you going to be trying to initiate friendships or trying to get active with people who actually do want to connect with you, right? So not getting stuck in that and feeling, once again, rigid. This is a theme for everybody, even if you're not a fixed sign. There is rigidness and resistance to change. Change the way that you look and you feel maybe about some of your friendships and the people that you spend time with. And you want to be careful to not push things. The Sun square Uranus can be like pushing something, and like where some kind of collective or group activity is pushing you to feel like you have to do something that it may not actually bring you happiness or fulfillment. It may not bring you financial fulfillment either. So if you've got friends going in one direction, doing all this one thing, and you're like, I need to do this too, you might realize actually that's not really the direction I'm supposed to be going in, and it can have you feeling unfulfilled. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Good luck, Libra. I'm not surprised, guys. I'm not surprised there are some more challenging cards coming up today. Like there is definitely going to be growing pains associated with this particular full moon. So is new moon, excuse me. As much as I hate to say that, I think this is going to be a common theme across the board. So sorry to those of you guys who are like, ugh, it's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, Without that pressure to change, we don't evolve. All right, so you got Scorpio and Scorpio rising. You will be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Leo. It'll be in your 10th house, which is all about your career. This is about your personal image, your status, your title out in the world. So if you are of age and you're working and you're employed, it can be about getting more recognition for that. If you are looking for a job, this is the time that you want to set intentions for that. Interesting time for you, Scorpio. Obviously, if you're a Scorpio, sun, moon, or rising, anywhere around, let's say, 22 to 24 degrees, this will be quite active for you because you're going to be experiencing a T-square. And the focal point of the T-square is obviously this new moon. So there is some action, some events, some things going on at work or in regards to your reputation or out in the world, or something that involves your relationship with a boss, your relationship maybe even with a parent. This can also be your relationship with a spouse, something that is being brought out into the open. Now, Scorpio, if you've heard me talk about the Venus retrograde, and I said how your relationship planet Venus is retrograding in your career zone, some of you guys are reimagining and reworking something about your professional image. It's taking a little bit longer to catch on, but you're staying with it. Others are reworking something about their relationships, and it might be playing out in a very public way. Be mindful that 23 degrees does deal with breaking apart, separations, divorce, things of that nature. I don't like saying that, but it is what it is. Unless you're somebody who's like, I'm getting into astrology, I'm making, predictions for the future, or I am a scientist, or I'm in technology. If you're somebody who is experiencing some pressure either in your career or your relationships, know that this is a new moon that can come through, that can create some pressure where something pops, okay? And you know that it's either about you really wanting more relationship, and so maybe you have realized that there's been so much focus on your career that there hasn't been enough space to go and meet somebody, develop that relationship, and like there's this growing pressure in your relationship area. Or those of you guys who are in existing relationships, if you're feeling like things are good, it can mean that you're having some necessary changes that kind of have to happen out at work. But the square is essentially saying that there is things that need to slow down at work and things that are actually evolving rapidly and growing when it comes to relationships. And some of you guys, this can be good. When we have these squares, it puts pressure and it really pushes the wheel of the chart to turn. So look back at what was happening in January, February, look back at what was happening in May. There is like a season, right, for all of these things throughout the particular year. Right now, it just so happens that you're setting intentions for your career, and it does challenge your sign and it does challenge your partnership sector. The square to Uranus says where something can kind of feel as if it's like exploding in a good or a bad way. So if you're starting something new, you may find that within 6 months, there is real significant growth and evolvement that can be happening in your professional life. However, it may come at the cost of a relationship. Those of you guys, like I said, who are looking to launch new businesses, projects, take new jobs, things like that, this new moon is not the time to do that because you do have Venus retrograde, and Venus represents either your marketplace, it represents your clients. Maybe you're pushing really hard with a business and you're hoping that you're going to get recognition or you're going to get more clients and you're not seeing it yet. Just be patient. It's going to come. If you're patient, it will arrive. Mars at the time of this new moon, which is your ruler, is coming into a trine with Uranus. And so I do feel like this is basically saying working with a group of people, marketing yourself, promoting yourself, doing a little bit more kind of like schmoozing can actually bring people in, and it can kind of help you connect with the right people to be able to promote what it is that you're trying to do out in the world professionally. Do not launch anything yet. Okay, you really need to wait until after Venus has gone direct, and ideally until Mercury has gone direct. So you're really still looking at like closer to like mid-September before you're really going to start to see the wheels turn, and you're going to start to see more of the things that you want taking shape in regards to your career. Okay, and watch for disruptions in relationships, either at work or in your personal life, because that square is very strong. Because remember, 6 months from now, you have a full moon that will be at the bottom of your chart, and that is going to be square Jupiter. So that tells me that if there's already brewing pressure in a relationship or within your career, it's all going to come home to roost at the beginning of the year. Thank God. Thank Goddess. We got the Ace of Cups. So this is basically saying like opportunity for new relationships, new partnerships. What if the Venus retrograde here is for you to be like really reworking your image? And if it's been, I've always been, focused on my career, maybe you're shifting gears and you're like, actually, there's something that's really important about relationships right now, and who I'm aligning myself with and who I'm collaborating with or who I'm married to or dating. I think the Ace of Cups is a good indication that this, for many of you, is going to be also about aligning with something that you're doing work-wise that you genuinely love, that feels like your purpose, that feels like what you're here to do. I love that this is coming up right now because Venus is close by. So I do feel like if you're a Scorpio or Scorpio rising, it really pays to have either a counselor, a therapist, an astrologer, a spouse, somebody who is kind of like whispering in the background, encouraging you and saying like, you can do this, it's fine, take your time, stay with it, don't quit. Because they're going to be the ones who are going to also help you really kind of celebrate some of the sweetness that's going to be coming in about 6 months' time. You never know who you're going to meet when you put yourself out there as well. So the 10th house can just be about being more public, changing your user photos, you know, maybe updating stuff in regards to contacting you, whether it's professionally or personally, may open the door and make it possible for the right person to see you, to hire you, or ask you out to dinner. You never know. So really focus on putting yourself out there right now because there's lots of opportunity for visibility with this new moon. Good luck, Scorpio. We've got Sag and Sag rising. What's going on, Sag? You got a new moon in your 9th house in the sign of Leo. Obviously sister sign, okay? And once again, Saggies are doing pretty well with this energy because it will be trining your ascendant, sun or moon, especially if you have anything, you know, 22 to 24 degrees. I love that because you're going to experience a fire trine involving also the North Node. And a new moon in the 9th house, you know, this is giving you an opportunity to set intentions revolving around your beliefs, travel, right? Your philosophy about life. It can be also revolving around celebrations or ceremonies. Continuing education, going to school, teaching, traveling, all that stuff. Now, this particular new moon obviously is in a trine to the North Node in your 5th house. So you're trying to make happiness, joy, creativity part of your philosophy. You are possibly starting to focus more on personal fulfillment and having fun. You may be reevaluating ways for you to make more time for the things that you love or for travel or for, you know, teaching, education. If you're hoping to apply to like an educational program, if you're hoping to start the beginning process of getting ready to publish a book or write a book or teach a class or plan a trip, this is the new moon that you want to work with. The challenge, right, is that there is a square that is taking place to Uranus in your 6th house, which says that there's scheduling change that will need to happen for you to facilitate taking a trip. There is a complete need to rework or be more innovative with your habits and your daily routine or your coworkers, right? So some of you guys might be saying, well, I want to change jobs. I need to go and do some training. Well, I want to go on a trip. I need to find a way to be able to better kind of organize my schedule and get some stuff handled. I love that Venus is close by because it does make me feel like a lot of you guys are going to be learning more about health and productivity. It is possible that you might have the support or the assistance maybe of another woman who's coming in to help you do this. The trines, obviously, to your ascendant, if you're having that to specific degrees, is all about your hope, your optimism, your willingness to explore, to go and have more fun. The 9th house is an energy that's very familiar to you. It is about the bigger picture of life. So when you factor in the theme of Leo, it's like, what could I create? And like how amazing it could be, or how amazing this potential, you know, future college education or story that I'm going to publish or trip that I'm going to take could be. Have fun with it. That's the key. But I am going to tell you that with, you know, Mercury about to go retrograde in your 10th house and Jupiter about to go retrograde in your 6th house, before you go flying off to places, you need to get some things straight at work and with your guys's, your career. Because likely some of you guys are realizing, I want to make a job change. I got to go back to school, or I need to get some new skills. And I can see that through the houses that are kind of getting hit. It is also possible that some of you guys are about to find out that there are changes that are going to be coming at work or with your daily routine, which may suddenly spring you into action, making you realize, okay, it is time for me to actually go and develop some new skills, or I'm going to have a break. I'm going to be, you know, taking a week off and going somewhere. Still a very positive area in your chart. You know, the 9th house is generally one of the more beneficial houses. I would just be really paying attention to where I think a lot of this is going to be some very sudden, unexpected schedule changes. Likely it's going to take you until the beginning of next year to really get the hang of this, to be honest with you. And I do feel like a lot of this might be about you needing to get into a new office space, work more independently, hiring staff, or doing something completely different altogether, to be honest with you. Eventually, Jupiter and Uranus will meet in the spring of 2024, and Jupiter is your chart ruler. So it tells me that some of you guys might be now launching an online business. Some of you guys might be, trying to do an astrology business. Some of you guys might be working with healthcare or pets, with beauty. Something that's new and innovative though. So you're kind of upgrading something and stepping more into the future. And I think that this is something you're going to be working on for the better part of the next 6 months. So you'll have to adjust to some of these fluctuations with your schedule. All right, so let's see, Sag, what do the cards say for you? Ooh, 5 of Cups. As much as I hate to say this, I really genuinely do feel like for some of you guys, because the sun does deal with either education or travel, the square to Uranus, you're about to have some disappointments revolving around just the flow of how you guys thought things were going to go. I'm hoping with the Venus retrograde that if you guys do have delays or sudden changes that are going on with like a trip that's planned, that you are able to kind of reroute that and re-navigate that to a different time, or you're able to get a refund. I also think that, the 5 of Cups is about crying over things and getting worked up over stuff and wanting to stay in a place where you're kind of like in a hole because you don't want to accept that something needs to change or that something is changing. If I had $1 for every Sag rising that I've spoken to in the last couple of months who told me that they were so burnt out and so tired and like done with what they were doing work-wise, I don't know how much money I would have. I would not be doing videos on YouTube. Let me just leave it at that. I feel like so many of you guys are just so burnt out, and I don't know if it's because you're working too much. I don't know if it's because you're not taking enough time to create space for inspiration. I don't know if it's just like the grind, right, of just doing the same thing that you've always done. I've tried to let all of my Sag rising people know that so much about the summer is about creating that space for inspiration to come in. And sometimes that doesn't show up until you slow down. So when you have a retrograde that's going to take place in your 6th house of work and routine, and then another one in the 10th house of like actual career, some of these things might happen. And so you can look at it and go, all right, well, I had my hours cut back, or, all right, I have to change something about the location where I'm working, or, okay, I have to kind of, scale back in some capacity, or have to quit. What do you do with that time, right? How do you reallocate that time? And so much I think about the trines to the North Node with some of the transits is like, yeah, maybe you finally have the time to like spend a summer in Europe, right? Or maybe you finally have the time to say, I'm going to go and take that course or do that certification, or I'm going to finally, sit down and make the decision to go back to school. And it might seem sudden, it might seem crazy, it might seem like it does not really work with your schedule, but I also feel like it's exactly what you need to be able to bring more creativity and inspiration in, so you can get to doing some of the things that you truly do want to be doing, right? Don't get stuck in disappointment. If something changes, it's changing for a reason. Good luck, Sag. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Welcome. This is going to be your new moon in the sign of Leo in your natal 8th house, which is interesting to bring the sun into the 8th house, right? Because the sun doesn't really shine there. It's kind of like bringing your attention to the shadow. So for you to have Leo in the 8th house, really dramatic, passionate, sensual, very lively, right? And a lot of Cap risings, especially very creative. They have a lot of creative potential. Now, when you have a new moon in the 8th house, it's bringing the attention to setting intentions revolving around intimacy, change, joint resources, money owed, insurance, inheritance, tax-related matters, change. Okay, think change. Now, this particular sign, it inconjuncts you, so it quincunxes, which means like you don't have a lot in common. You may be feeling the new moon pretty strongly because it's inconjuncting your Pluto, which means you're going through, as a Cap or a Cap rising, especially the late degrees, you're going through a period of time where you're like, yeah, I'm resisting change a little bit, or something's coming up that's scary and you don't want to work through it. You don't want to acknowledge it. You don't want to deal with it. The North and the South Node are still squaring Pluto in your sign. It's easing up by the time we get to the end of August, but it's still there, which basically means you're being asked to evolve, to change, to let something go, right? To be able to allow new goals to emerge. Now, with that being said, Pluto has a really strong tie to the 8th house or Scorpio-related energy. So where all of this new moon is coming in saying, yeah, let's go deeper into the new. Let's let things die off. Let's clear things out. It's putting that pressure on Pluto. So you want to be really paying attention to your body. You want to be paying attention also to where there is a need to express yourself or there is a need to have an outlet. It can be sexually, that can be a theme. I think that with Venus being in the mix also and Venus's connection to your career as well as creativity, there's something new that's emerging where you're like, okay, you know, I need more resources from other people so I can go and do the things that I want to do. And whether this is like, you know, refinancing something, getting a loan, this is about getting a payout, an inheritance, having something, you know, returned back to you. Maybe there is a change that's going on with you financially or with your partner's resources. Maybe there is a change going on with, you know, your work and how you're making money. Some of you guys may be relying on something coming in, so that way it makes it possible for you to do more of the creative work that you would like to do. So there's this reorganization going on with your relationship with somebody else and their resources. It feels a little messy, I'm not gonna lie. I do feel like sometimes 8th house transits or crisis come about as an opportunity. This is a focal point of in conjunction to Pluto in your 1st house where you're resisting change. It's also an in conjunction to Neptune where, you know, it's hard for you to find the words. But Leo is about creating. So what can you do creatively? Where does grief or loss or endings actually inspire you to want to be alive, to like actually show up and feel like you're making something of your life right now? And so there can be some heavy feelings, like you're going through some real, you know, seasons of change, but it's kind of creating space for there to be new life, more love, more support, more passion that may emerge. And so you may feel very inspired through the events here. I would really encourage you to set intentions revolving around embracing change and shining a light on the things that maybe you've been afraid to acknowledge and really getting in touch with your true talent. So that way, not only you can bring in more in terms of resources, but you can also go deeper with other people, right? The 8th house has a lot of depth. It's like drilling, right? That's why it has connections also to, to under the sediment, under the layers in the ground. Scorpio can be about what is beneath, and we have to excavate it, and we have to pull it out. So there's going to be talent that's going to potentially come from some of these situations that are arising, and also opportunity, right? The squares to Uranus is financial opportunity. Because I do think you need some of these resources to be able to go and work on some other things. This can also be about where there's money that's being cashed out or things that are actually coming to you, which you're then going to turn around and go, okay, I'm taking 6 months off of work so I can focus on this new creative project, or I'm taking that money and I'm investing it, or I'm paying off my debt so I can have more freedom. There's an exchange factor here, right? Let's see what the cards say for you, Capricorn. Card that I get is the Page of Wands. Okay, so this can be showing up as an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius. Pages are younger people, so sometimes it can be children. So some of these squares can be about the financial implications in regards to children, the costs of them, and how it affects our joint resources. It can be going back and forth with a younger person, okay? And pages are new energy, so it's about initiating something new. Learning the beginning process of how to create, how to share, how to express, and like touching on things that you've been afraid to touch on, ways that you've been too afraid of expressing yourself. It can also be about like, you know, your sex life and intimacy, and like finding that it's opening the door to be more creative and be more playful and more expressive, and like how that might be enhancing the connection that you have with other people, right? Good luck, Capricorn. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're experiencing this new moon in your 7th house in the sign of Leo. I would imagine this is going to be an interesting for you, Aquarius. I would definitely like to hear from you guys and hear how this is playing out. So you've got this new moon in your relationship house. This is where we set new intentions revolving around partnerships, relationships. But it can also be getting ready to offer new services. It can be about how other people perceive you, how they see you, and how you're connecting with them. A new moon here, for those of you guys that are single, likely has you reevaluating and setting new intentions in regards to what you want or what you're seeking in relationships. I would imagine with Venus retrograde, some of you guys are connecting with the past because Venus rules the 4th house, which is the past. It can also be connected to partners at a distance or people who live in other places. It can also be about your relationships with children, right? 7th house relationships. Leo can be younger people. And this new moon is directly in a square to your chart ruler in the 4th house, which means you may have relationships, partners, other people directly confronting you, challenging you, something about your home, your living situation. It can be about your emotions, your feelings, right? But you have Uranus in the 4th house. So those of you guys who are in relationships, be very careful with like friction between your partners and you at home, where there can be some sparks, where your partners can be having issues with your relatives, your family, right? That's another way of looking at it. But the sun generally deals with like men. And if you're a woman and you're in a relationship with a man, it can be about, you know, you guys kind of going head to head a little bit at home over what? Over the home zone, where you're living, possessions, money, Taurus things. And it's setting the stage where I think you're going to see partners that are going to be really kind of acting out a bit, which I think they already are at the Venus retrograde, for the next 6 months. And I really want you to pay attention to the Scorpio moon transit, the Aquarius moon transit. And know that for some of you guys, it's like a timeline. There's like a ticking clock where you're going to see how partners are going to kind of behave over these next couple of weeks. And you're going to go, okay, I'm giving this 6 months. Or, you know, my partner's giving me like non-negotiable situation. They're basically saying, you know, this is what we're doing. We're either moving or like we're separating, right? Or you're moving to me or I'm done. It definitely deals with relationship and living situations. Those of you guys who are already living with a partner or already living with a relative, you might know that like that time also has like a timeline. And as you're getting into November and then eventually the beginning of next year, remember you're going to have that full moon in your 1st house conjunct Pluto, where you might go, you know what, I've changed and this is too much for me and like I need a break from this. I also think that this is where people can be pushing and incentivizing you to really want to show up in a relationship and be willing to partner with them and meet them halfway and see where there, you know, is a need for you to be a little bit more flexible and a little bit more adventurous with Jupiter and Uranus in the 4th house. And if a partner is saying, let's move, you're like, okay, how can we declutter and how can we make it easier to kind of break away from some of the responsibilities at home? And whether that's getting away from kids or, you know, focusing on traveling more. So much of the trines to the North Node is saying that anything is possible with communication and the willingness also to get a little bit more mobile. So if you're in a situation where you can't move yet, maybe you start looking at places. And if you're not moving at all, you might have somebody that just starts giving you some ultimatums. But for the single Aquarians, this is interesting because partners can come back and they can actually, you know, be pushing you to get outside of your comfort zone. And you may be reevaluating certain relationships and considering or contemplating whether or not you're ready to take the next steps with them into the future. Regardless, setting intentions revolving around bringing more love, bringing more romance, more fun back into relationships and finding ways to be able to kind of coexist and find the balance between both of your needs really seems to be the key. Balance, 6 of coins. I like this. Very much what I just said. I think it's about give and take. It's about what you put into a situation and what you get out of it. You want to be careful because some of these situations with partners, you are going to find that they are going to give you ultimatums. And if you're pushing back too hard, you're not necessarily going to get somebody who's going to be as willing to kind of work with you. So the key here is give and take. You know, what are you putting into it? And what is somebody giving you out of it? If you're giving somebody patience and fairness, and if you're being balanced, likely you're going to have somebody who's going to be willing to work with you as well. This is also about getting what you need. So, you know, throughout this Venus retrograde, partners might be saying, I need more from you. I need you to come and stay at my place more. I need you to kind of support me more. And likely you're going to be like, okay, well, this is where my mom is, you know, fourth house, or this is where my family is, this is where my kids are, or my home, you know, how can I make this change? And you're going to realize that, you know, in order for you to be in better balance or harmony with a relationship, there does need to be a willingness to kind of pull up the past and be willing to kind of unroot yourself a little bit, so that way you can give way to new potential relationship opportunities. Or if you're realizing, no, I'm not budging and this isn't going to work and this is dramatic, it's going to be about you having to be the one to be very clear and letting them know, hey, this is a situation that's not working for me. Okay. Good luck, Aquarius. All right, so we have Pisces and Pisces rising. You are going to be experiencing a new moon in the sign of Leo, and that'll be in your natal 6th house. And the 6th house deals with your office space, your routine, your health, your habits, your pets. And also I think it's just like your day-to-day life, obviously ruled by the sun, and the sun is in this house. So I think between that transit and the Venus retrograde, you've really been focusing a lot on like, okay, are my relationships in balance? Am I making time for the things that I love? How is my health doing? What do I need to reorganize about my schedule, about my office, about my work? So you've already kind of been in the midst of some of this stuff. I do feel like a lot of it's been about communication, because Venus is connected to your communication and the willingness to communicate and share what isn't working and what needs to change, and getting right with that. A new moon here is a great time to be like, I'm setting new intentions when it comes to my health, my habits. The challenge is that everybody is going to be experiencing a square to Uranus. Now, Uranus rules your 12th house, which is what's hidden and what's subconscious, and it's in your 3rd. So to be honest with you, Pisces, it's about where things are not working because you're not speaking up. You're not sharing what's on your mind. You're not communicating your fears. You're resisting making some kind of change in your communication style. You're going to learn throughout the next month, as we start to see more planets come into your 7th house and oppose, that you know, you're going to potentially have some challenges with relationships with other people, and other people are going to be like, what's going on? You're not communicating well. You're shutting down on me. You're isolating yourself because of the oppositions to Saturn and Neptune. And I feel like, you know, for some of you guys, it's about finally airing things out and being like, look, this isn't working for me. This doesn't work for my schedule. I'm stressed out. I haven't wanted to say anything. I haven't been sure how to approach the matter. And it's just, I think, about becoming more matter of fact. Equally for you, you know, Leo is an energy that does not resonate as well with Pisces because it's an inconjunct, so you guys kind of rub each other the wrong way. Where Leo is more external and active and masculine and kind of, you know, daring, Pisces is more sensitive and feminine and receptive, and it has a tendency to kind of pull inward. So what you're noticing is that there's stuff that's like going, you know, a little wonky, either at work or in regards to your health or in regards to your relationships with people. And it does directly negatively impact or irritate you. And it maybe makes you feel more isolated. Maybe it makes you feel like, I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to take a step back. It's going to go away. But what you're going to keep noticing are all these little annoyances, right? And your health is definitely something that can be giving you a clue and showing you potentially where you're actually having problems. So I want you to pay attention for that. I want you to be really checked in and aware if you're having weird symptoms, if you're having problems with your health, if habits are coming up. But equally, I think with Saturn and Neptune retrograde in your 1st house, which is your body, yourself, you're already realizing, whoa, I haven't had good boundaries, or I haven't taken care of the situation, or I haven't been really kind of focusing on my goals. I have also maybe been not as focused, right? Neptune is now retrograde. I haven't had as much clarity, and like now I'm realizing where I'm not taking care of myself and not focused on my needs and better with my boundaries. It actually affects my health. Venus retrograde in your 6th. A lot of health stuff relating to these retrogrades for you Pisces. Feeling drained, feeling down, feeling irritated. Here's what we do. We do something about it. Work with the sun in a trine to the North Node, okay? And also Venus in a trine to Chiron. This is where you want to really take action to be properly nourishing your body, making your food, making sure that you're getting all of the appropriate nutrients you need. Some of you guys are cutting back on sugar. Some of you guys are making more time for fun. If you're anti-exercise, maybe you're trying to find a way to like join a dance class or do something that's going to be more performative and kind of creative to work through some of these issues that you might be experiencing. And if you're wanting to cut back on smoking, stress eating, these things, it's a wonderful time to be doing it as well, because the 6th house is all about our habits and our daily routine. And if you're looking to get a new job, if you're looking to find a new healthcare practitioner, if you're thinking more also about being able to be more productive, I think this is the time that you would ultimately need to do it. All right, so let's take a look and let's see what the cards say for you. Upward, it's kind of like an upward battle. Okay, so 5 of Wands, it means that you're feeling challenged. It means that you're feeling like you're being kind of like, yeah, it's an uphill battle. Like you're being challenged the entire way. Maybe you're starting to realize that there is some resistance for a reason, that the resistance that's coming up is because you haven't really taken care of the problem at the source. So if there's been some problems brewing at work or some problems brewing with your health, it's like you looking at things going like, okay, what I've been doing isn't working, like being combative isn't fixing things, and needing to get back down to basics. This can also be about feeling like defensive. So I'm wondering if this card is coming up because Mars and Mercury are currently in opposition to Neptune in your 7th house. So maybe you feel like people have been attacking you a little bit and you haven't really had the opportunity to like make things right or like maybe better certain relationships. And you're kind of still like looking for like an opportunity to let your guard down, but it just has not quite been the right time yet. I do feel like with this, the key here is to not push harder. The key here is to not have conflict with other people, to not resist change, right? But also to like not push the river. Focus more on like what you can change. Focus more on setting intentions revolving around new starts and new opportunity, not rehashing the past, not getting into conflicts with people, not getting stressed out about having conversations. Like there may be a need to simplify and declutter and clean things up in general with some of your relationships or with some of your habits, so you're not feeling like it's working against you. You know what I'm saying? 5 of Wands is a difficult card to have, and I do feel like a lot of this is going to probably really come down to either issues with your routine or issues with your health. Know that it is going to take really until we get to the beginning of October before Venus is coming out of the retrograde shadow. And when it does, it's going to come into your 7th house, but it's going to oppose Saturn. So there may be a bit of a back and forth with people at work or with these habits or with a relationship really for a couple of months before you finally realize like this is not worth the effects that it's had on my health. So some of you guys, it might take a little bit longer to get this lesson. But I'm hoping that if you need to start a new habit, or if you need to check in with the doctor, or if you need to look for a new job, right? Or if it's just something's not working, like instead of, you know, fighting with somebody about it, just being like, this isn't working. Like, how can we find a solution? Let's be more about taking action rather than, you know, arguing with one another. Difficult card. A lot of difficult cards today, guys. I'm not surprised by this. As much as I hate to say that, you know, this is definitely going to be a new moon that if we are not willing to initiate change, and if we're not willing to do something different and focus on where we're going in the future, we are going to get hit with just every obstacle you can imagine. So lean into change. Don't be somebody who is just going along with things and just thinking that we can just keep the status quo, because with all these planets at 23 degrees, we have now officially moved past just keeping quiet and keeping the status quo. This is where we start to kind of really feel things launch forward into the future. Try to take your time, right? Work with the Mars and the Mercury in Virgo, those trines to Uranus. If we have routines, we will be able to navigate some of these changes a little bit better and stay focused and stay grounded during these turbulent times. Let me know. I would love to hear how you are doing with these energies and where this is happening in your chart and what you anticipate might be taking place. Feel free to come back to this video and you can leave comments as this is taking place over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, 2 weeks really until we have this particular new moon. So as we're working out of the full moon in Aquarius into this period, it's going to be a bumpy ride. So just hold on and know that change is on the way. As always, I appreciate your guys' likes, your comments, your shares. It's so helpful. Even if you give me a thumbs up or drop a hello in the comment section, any engagement with this video allows other people to see my videos and it encourages the channel to grow, allowing me to be a full-time creator so I can keep doing this full-time for you guys. If you like this content, you want to see more, make sure you click the button below and you're subscribed. Consider donating to the channel if you benefit from this particular information or sharing this link with somebody who would appreciate it. I also take clients one-on-one. You can check out my website below at beyondtheveiltarot.com. I am booking in September and October, so if you want to get a session for a birthday or if you want to gift it to somebody, I have that as an availability too. I do, solar returns, synastry, natal charts, election dates, you name it. And my sessions are all a combination of tarot, astrology, and what I see clairvoyantly. I also teach tarot and astrology, so if you like my style, you resonate with what I'm doing, check out my courses while you're on my website and sign up for my newsletter so you're alerted as to when I have new webinars and courses coming out on my website. With that being said, I'll let you guys go. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I am very excited to see how this really Uranian new moon affects all of us. So we'll stay tuned and see what's happening in these next couple weeks, but I'm excited for what the future holds. Until next time, I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.